This is Cult Confessions with Christy and Josie. Welcome to our podcast.
Trigger warning. May contain themes of religious trauma and sexual abuse. Disclaimer. All information in this podcast is our opinion based on our experiences. We do not purport any of this content to be inherently factual and believe that each individual has the right to draw their own conclusion.
Hi, I'm Christy.
And I'm Josie. And today on Cult Confessions, we're going to talk some more about the new Independent Fundamental Baptist church/cult, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to talk a little more about Steven Anderson. We did our last episode on him, and honestly, it was really interesting, just kind of like learning a little bit more about that whole situation. So what we're going to look at today is the sermon that he preached after he got out of the psychiatric hospital where he was held involuntarily. So I haven't seen this. Have you seen any of it?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't.
Cool.
But
exciting.
Yeah, we'll see what he says.
I'm really interested to see what he's going to say. And how much he talks about it, because his Facebook posts and like just his rhetoric towards the whole situation has been really unhinged.
I would say definitely describe him as unhinged.
Very much so. Yeah, like him, the NIFB in general, it's all just a little crazy. So yeah, we're just gonna look for some more of those super fun unhinged moments.
So it says as like the title, My Trip to the Nut House.
My Trip to the Nut House?
Yeah, is what he titled it.
Oh boy. So that's the title of the video, or like that's the title of his sermon?
I'm not really sure.
Okay, I mean, I guess we'll find out. Let's do this.
It just says right here, My Trip to the Nut House, Pastor Steven L. Anderson on my birthday, Faithful Word Baptist Church.
All right,
so
let's do it. Let's jump in. I'm excited.
Okay, let's go.
The annual chili cook-off is coming up on Thursday, October 31st
We had one of those at
4:30
Faith,
to
too.
7:30. All chilies must be made from scratch. Chilies must be entered by the 5 p.m. cutoff. Sides and spice cider will be provided by the church. And then on the back, the big one, the missions conference, we've actually got a detailed schedule here so that you can kind of plan on which of these things you can jump in and participate in. Of course, Wednesday and Sunday are going to be the same schedule as usual, although they will be missions conference themed, and we're going to be having the mission sermons on those days. But it's really Thursday, Friday, and Saturday where we just kind of have wall-to-wall stuff going on from morning till evening every day. And so we're looking forward to the missions conference. That's about it for announcements this morning. It's great to see a big crowd this morning, that there's still 7,000 that haven't bowed the knee to Baal, with all the people that are starting to bail. You know, there's more people. Apparently, there's a lot more people that don't bail since we got a great attendance this morning. And so I thought we lost a bunch of people. You know, it seems like a good crowd. Whatever. All right, let's go ahead and sing our next song. Come lead us.
Ooh, yay, more songs.
Hymnal, you should find the hymn entitled Holy, Holy, Holy.
Oh, God.
Answer, you can raise your hand.
Why are these so triggering to me? Oh, okay.
Man, the title of my sermon this morning is My Trip to the Nut House. My Trip to the Nut House. Look down at your Bible there in verse number 7. The Bible reads, For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Now, let me just go ahead and just tell you a little bit of the story that I'm going to get into the sermon this morning. But on Tuesday morning, I was just sitting in my room, minding my own business, reading Mark chapter 5 of all chapters in my Catalan New Testament, and the police came and took me to a mental institution against my will and checked me in there. The cops, when they picked me up at my house, they acted like I was just going to go see a doctor and then everything was going to be fine. But no, I get there and they check me into a mental institution for 72 hours. But I was told that I would see a doctor every 24 hours that could potentially discharge me. And I did end up getting out of there in a little less than 24 hours. The place was horrific. It was straight evil. But I will get to that later in the sermon.
Oh.
Why did this happen? Because that effeminate piece of crap, Lionel Caros, decided to fill out some document and lie and commit felony perjury, and he thought that he was going to be able to do it anonymously and we wouldn't know who it was. Well, guess what? We do know who it was, and we're getting those documents from the courthouse, and what he did is a felony. But I digress. Turn if you would to Mark chapter 3. Let me give you some people in the Bible who were accused of being insane. So it turns out I'm not alone as a Bible preacher being accused of being crazy or being accused of being insane. While you're turning to Mark chapter 3, the Apostle Paul.
Something I have to say too is like with the whole like God doesn't give you the spirit of fear, and he gives you like sound mind. So like basically saying that like anxiety and mental health issues don't come from God, aka they come from probably the devil.
Yep.
Right? Like something evil.
Yep. I've literally been told that in like counseling sessions with Pastor Boyle, with Christy Hademan. Like, I'm nervous about this. I'm scared about this. I don't want to do this. God hath not given you the spirit of fear. You need to overcome, like, all that kind of bullshit. Like, no.
What about
God
like
hath
the
given
fact
me
that
anxiety and I need drugs. Thank you.
God hath given me anxiety. We need
God
to write
hath
our
given
own...
me anxiety.
We need to write our own Bible.
I really think we should, honestly. We could call it the like something KJV because we're Christy and Josie. So
yeah, the new K.
There's already a new KJV. Anti-cult KJV. I don't know.
The real KJV.
Oh.
Just talk about how God gave us mental health issues.
Thanks, Jesus. Thanks.
No, it's really frustrating because I feel like I remember a lot of people kind of telling me that when I had anxiety and stuff. And like, it's so easy to just brush it off, and you kind of just have to, the same thing with like depression, right? Like rejoice in the Lord always.
Yep.
And like, then you're just caught in like saying these verses over and over again in repetition, kind of like honestly the same as Catholics do with the rosemary and stuff, like rosary.
The rosary.
You know what I mean?
Rosemary
like
is a spice, Christy.
I know. It's also a name, I think, too.
It is, yeah.
But basically, like, just that it's like a ritual type of thing, right? Like where you're like trying to pray things away. And it's very similar, I would say, to what the Catholics do. A lot of times they do that when they're like feeling a certain way, they'll pray, and it's like the same prayer over and over again. I feel like that's the same as like when we are given these verses about rejoicing in the Lord, or God doesn't give you the spirit of fear, whatever it is that you're going through, you're just kind of like repeating those things.
I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. Can I tell you, I literally would say that like as a whisper to myself every time I served in volleyball. If I didn't think I was going to make the serve, I would say that every time before I served.
That's
every single time.
That's cute.
Oh my God. And I thought that I was just the most pious little Christian girl. God.
Cute.
Jesus.
No, but I was gonna say that it's weird though, because I feel like anxiety, at its source, like it's not actually bad to have anxiety, as long as it's not at the level that we have it.
Right. Like a certain level of anxiety is just awareness and like...
And it's instinctual. Like it keeps us safe. So like we have certain anxieties and certain like, I guess, triggers and stuff because deep down, it's something that we know, like it's survival of the fittest. It's like just kind of how it is, where it's like you're kind of trying to survive. That's really all we're trying to do.
Right.
Is survive. And that's like a huge thing, especially within like the human race, in comparison to other animals and like mammals and whatever creatures, we try to survive more than anything. So like when we're having like persecution, not in a Jesus type of way, but like when we're like mentally like having struggles or like physically having struggles, we like our minds protect us to survive, right? So like instead of just fully going insane, a lot of times our brains change and do certain things so that it just gets us through, right?
Yeah.
Like the trauma and everything. Like it's kind of insane how much trauma we can go through without fully going insane, and how our brain protects us from those traumas, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so like just like humans in general, we're very much, our main thing is to survive whatever we face, kind of thing.
Like instincts, like when it like I think what you said is absolutely spot on. A certain level of anxiety is just part of being human. And then there's anxiety that's a chemical imbalance, and depression that's a chemical imbalance, and it's debilitating and you need help. Like but the IFB doesn't know the difference.
We're just born that way.
Yeah.
I'm literally like walking anxiety. I have a little fly.
You are, yeah.
Motherfucker. Okay.
Do you have a fly or something?
Yeah, there was a little fly. I was trying to kill it, but
also,
yeah,
he's literally just immediately trying to discredit the person who put in the complaint, and immediately jumping to, I am similar to all of these wonderful great men in the Bible. Look at me, I'm amazing. Like the narcissism is so strong.
Okay, who do we think he's gonna name?
Oh, I mean, it's Apostle Paul, because that's up on the screen for sure.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Fucking cheater.
Who else was accused? John the Baptist, maybe?
I think there's a lot of people, right? Like, or I feel like there's a lot of people that could have been accused of being insane. I mean, like Abraham trying to fucking kill his own kid.
Yeah.
Noah with the ark.
Oh yeah,
with
Noah,
the ark
for
being
sure.
Like, there's no way this is happening. Psycho building this massive boat or whatever. Yeah, a lot of people.
I don't know.
Probably Jesus.
Jesus himself.
Sure.
I am God.
He's obviously gonna say that he's like Jesus. 100%.
I'm really interested to see who. I mean, he's obviously starting with the Apostle Paul, but I'm really interested where he goes with this, because I'm already having like so many narcissism vibes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly really surprised that he basically said the same thing in his post about that man, about him being
he
like
called him effeminate and something else. I don't remember, but like, he's not nice. This guy's just a meanie head.
I mean, I'm curious to see what like he actually put in the paperwork also of like,
and like
why
accusing somebody of committing a felony is a big deal. So I'm very interested to see like what happens in the future, like if he has any proof to back that up. I'm guessing probably not, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, based off of like the children coming out and all that they've said so far, I mean, it does seem like, at least in his son's point of view, that he wasn't as abusive as the mother. Or he isn't as abusive because they still have kids at home.
Sure.
But the daughter even said that he was still pretty abusive. Like he would take things out on her a lot too.
Yeah.
So it might just be like dependent on if you're a girl or a boy or whatever too.
It is a lot of the time in the IFB. Yeah.
Was accused of being crazy. In Acts chapter 26, verse 24, and as he thus spake for himself, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, thou art beside thyself. Much learning doth make thee mad. Now, of course, being beside yourself in the Bible is another word for being crazy. And being mad, of course, is how British people talk about being crazy, right? Mad isn't talking about anger. He says you're beside yourself. Much learning
Wait, are they
has
British
made
in
you
the Bible?
mad.
No.
But he said, the Apostle Paul, I am not mad, most noble Festus, but speak forth the words of truth and soberness.
Okay.
You tell the truth,
right.
and people accuse you of being crazy for telling the truth, because we're living in a crazy world.
Oh, boy.
But look down, if you would, at Mark chapter 3, verse 20, we'll see that Jesus Christ himself was accused multiple times of being crazy.
Everyone else is crazy, not
Mark
me.
chapter 3, verse 20, and the multitude cometh together again, so that they could not so much as eat bread. And when his friends heard of it, they went out to lay hold on him, for they said, he is beside himself. That's what they said about Jesus. He is beside himself.
Oh, here we go.
And the scribes which came down from Jerusalem said, he hath Beelzebub, and by the prince of the devils casteth he out devils. So in one breath they say he's crazy. In the next breath they say he's demon possessed.
Okay, pause.
And what you're going to see in the sermon this morning is that there are a lot of similarities.
Okay. Okay. I've never been outright accused of being demon possessed, but I think that, I mean, a pastor looking at me and saying that the devil is working in your life is pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have anxiety and depression and CPTSD.
Mm-hmm.
I have been told that the devil is working in my life. So I'm Jesus, apparently, according to this guy. I'm at the same level of Jesus. So yay me, I guess. Dude, this logic is so ridiculous. I'm sorry.
I mean, I feel like, you know, with my mental health crisis, when I was going through psychosis, which ended up being just a bipolar mood disorder postpartum.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this rhetoric growing up, I 100% questioned whether I was demon possessed. I was like, I wasn't super spiritual, like religious or anything really at that point.
Yeah.
I think I was still deconstructing, and I obviously didn't fully end my relationship with God, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't break up with God until after after everything with my mental health crisis. Like soon after that, that was kind of when I realized that all of this stuff was kind of a lie to me.
Okay.
But I definitely questioned it when I was having all of the anxiety and everything that comes with bipolar.
Yeah.
I was wondering to myself, like, is this what it is to be demon possessed? Like,
I had similar experiences in high school. Like when I was, I mean, I was pretty suicidal through all of high school, but I attempted 3 times. And before those attempts, like, I seriously considered if I was demon possessed. I remember sitting in my bedroom, I think I was probably 16 at this point, and reading about demon possession in the Bible and, like, reading it out loud just in case I was demon possessed, because if I was saying scripture, then I couldn't be demon possessed because demons
you could, like,
couldn't
cast it out or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it would help cast the demon out if I was possessed or in danger of being possessed. Which I haven't really thought about in a minute. That's kind of awful. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like, I mean, I never obviously got prayed over or exorcised. What's the word for the past of exorcism?
I don't know. That's a really good question.
I never had an exorcism.
I'm going to say exercised. I think that it just spelled differently.
I was never exercised.
Okay.
No, I never had an exorcism.
Do exorcisms? Because I don't think that Baptists do, like, this whole ritual exorcism thing like you see Catholics do. Like,
so I obviously have seen Catholics do it because of TV.
Sure.
Like movies. But I've seen Pentecostals do it like straight up because I used to go to a
Okay.
Pentecostal church. And so what they would do is they like gather around the person and everyone lays a hand on them and then they're praying and all these things. And then the person starts going like kind of crazy and throws up and everything.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. They probably should do that like when the kids aren't there, but you know.
Oh my God, there were kids there?
I mean, yeah, I was a kid. I was a little kid.
Oh, this was when you were in California.
Yes.
Oh shit.
So under 13, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not really sure. I would assume that like if like your pastor, if someone was like, "Pastor, I think that my cousin is demon possessed. Do you think you could come and pray over them?" I would assume that they would probably do that.
Yeah.
And like I think that they have done that. Like I remember I had a friend that they thought that their house was haunted.
Okay.
And so I believe they had the pastor come over, and it was like a Baptist pastor come over, and he like prayed and then like read scriptures, I think.
Okay. Now, I know that I don't think it's related to demon possession, but I know the Baptists do like the laying of the hands, but I think they normally do it when it's somebody who's
Like anoint, right?
Yeah, it's like somebody who's either being anointed as a preacher or being sent out as a missionary or just needs a little extra Jesus to go do whatever they need to do.
Your thing is, quite literally.
Because I literally remember, like, we did it every missions conference, and all the men of the church would, like, circle around and, like, lay hands and pray over them. That was weird. That's weird.
Why only the men?
Oh, well, you know. Duh. That's
men like
that's all that counts. That's all that counts, don't you know?
Yeah,
we don't have that praying power as women. We can't channel God as women.
Yeah, we're not conduits.
Nope.
But yeah, this guy,
he's just going right into the narcissism, literally comparing himself to Jesus right away. That's
preaching is yeah, I guess it's brimstone preaching if you're just yelling.
It's definitely fire and brimstone. He's loud.
If he's just yelling every single thing, I guess that makes it like.
Well, I think the NIFB in general is just very fire and brimstone. I mean, we literally looked at their website and it's red and flames all over.
Yeah.
Like they definitely preach about hell a lot.
That were like that would like thump like Bible thumpers and shit. So it's not that I haven't heard this kind of preaching before, so it's honestly nothing new, but whatever.
That's true.
Similarities between people who are crazy and people who are demon possessed. Okay, and we're going to explain that more as we get into the sermon. But since you're right there in Mark 3, flip over to Mark 5, which is the chapter that I happen to be reading on Tuesday morning, of all things. The reason that I didn't come back to church, the reason I didn't come to church on Wednesday night, even though I was released on Wednesday afternoon, is because I was just so mad. I was so angry. I was in no condition to preach. It would not have been the right kind of a sermon.
I hate to break it to you, homie, but you're still in no position
Brother Segura preach anyway because he preached.
Wait, why didn't you just pray it away and then, like, isn't it a thing to not go to church?
Exactly. Oh, shame on you, Pastor. Shame on you, Pastor.
Shame.
Preached such a phenomenal sermon. And if you didn't hear Brother Segura's sermon, you need to get that on the replay because he did a great job. And so I'm glad that I decided to sit that one out. But if you would,
I didn't know pastors
before you go to Mark 5, let me read you from John 10.
Sit out like that, but okay.
There was division, therefore, again among the Jews for these sayings. And many of them said, and they're talking about Jesus, he hath a devil and is mad. Why hear ye him? See, they're saying that Jesus is crazy, that he has a demon and so forth. Others said, these are not the words of him that hath a devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind? Now, before we get into Mark 5, because what I'm going to do in this sermon, I'm going to give you 4 types of insane behavior in the Bible and my personal experience at the Nut House observing these 4 behaviors up close and personal myself.
Love
Okay.
that he's calling
But first
it
of all,
the
let me
nut
just
house.
tell you about the place where I was put. And again, let me say it was a nightmare. It was horrific. Okay. And in fact, there was one normal guy that was there that I talked to. And he said to me, he said, you know, this place is impossible to describe. We're never going to be able to tell anyone about this place because no one will believe it. No one will understand it. No one will comprehend it. You can't even put into words what this place is like. You just have to be here and experience it to even understand it because this place is so messed up. But I'll try my best this morning to describe it. Basically, it was a room that was approximately 50 feet by 60 feet. So it wasn't that big. And I counted 50 lunatics that I was in there with. So I was in one room with 50 crazy people and one normal guy, and 10 or maybe 8 or 10 staff members at any given time. All in one room, jammed into this room. The room's full of chairs, 50 crazy people, myself, one other normal dude, and about 8 staff members at any given time. I mean, there were some messed up gangbanger, drug addict types there that said, quote, I should have stayed in prison. This is the most effed up place I've ever been. It's like a concentration camp for crazies. Others compared it to a haunted house due to the fact that there was just continual hellish screams going on the whole time. All right, let's talk about the 4 types of insane behavior in the Bible and my personal experiences. Let's look at Mark.
I'm a little bit confused. Like, I've been to a psych ward.
I was going to ask.
That's definitely not the experience I had.
Okay.
First, I mean, my experience was 100% different. But not in the sense that I wouldn't say that I had a good experience.
No.
I would say America's healthcare is shit.
Yeah, I'm very interested with the way he's describing this because I feel like there would be a little bit of empathy. Like, I feel like if you experience something like that, you would have a little bit of empathy and compassion for the people who are experiencing that need help. Because, like, dude, this guy is completely unhinged. But still, I mean, if he's in this position saying, I don't need to be here, I'm not, somebody who needs to be in this place, would you not have any sympathy for these people who do need to be in this place and then are being treated horrifically? But there's none of that he's talking about. Mm-hmm. It's very self-centered, which, doesn't really surprise me, but it's still sad.
I mean, when he's saying that it was hellish and it was a nightmare and all these things, well, yeah, that's pointing out the issues within the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not good. It's not good, and I obviously have a lot of trauma from being in there, but only because the staff, like, would say things to me that, like, they probably shouldn't have. Like, they would tell me, like, they would say, so you can't have, there's a lot of things you're not allowed to have because it's dangerous, basically, to have it in there. So instead of just saying that, they would literally, like, this guy would just tell me, like, sorry, you can't have the string to your hoodie because someone's tried to hang themselves with it. Like, just straight up telling me what they would do, rather than being like, because it's dangerous. And
because
not
of
giving
safety
me
protocols, like
ideas of things that I could do when I'm in
man.
a mental health situation. You shouldn't be telling me.
No. All the ways that I could hurt myself.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was really hard because post psych ward, I then saw everything as a weapon, basically, right? Like, everything. And not that I ever wanted to, like, hurt myself. It was just like I was scared, so terrified of hurting myself or someone else, that I was, like, afraid of everything after that. Like, every single thing I saw as being a weapon or whatever, right? And so it just was a lot more terrifying, I feel, after the fact.
That's fair.
Obviously, I'm glad that I was able to get psychiatrist help and medication when I could, but they definitely let me down with like post because they're supposed to keep up with me and set me up with a psychiatrist and things like that. And they didn't. They just dropped me
Ooh. No,
fully.
no,
And
no.
I had to figure all of that out by myself. And on top of that, our insurance didn't cover any of it. So we were
Oh,
like
shit.
gonna be like very much in debt because of it. But we finally were able to get like basically a very specific uh, request done
Mm.
for us because there were no psychiatrists or psych wards or outpatient places that would cover with our insurance.
Oh,
So we had
gotcha.
like an exception done,
Okay.
um, so that we could get the help that we needed. Um, but yeah, it would have been really, really fucking expensive had we not figured out that situation. Um, I think it was like 100K, honestly.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It was like
Wow.
I think $1,000 every single time I went to see my psychiatrist. Yeah, it
Lord.
was crazy. Um, and that's just like
That's insane.
a little bit of like the issues that come with American healthcare and like
Mm-hmm.
mental health and all the things and insurance and how insane all of it is that it's really sad. I'm not really sure what he's talking about with everyone being like kept in one room all together
I don't know.
because
I'm wondering if it's like some kind of like holding or some sort,
it
or if it.
must have been like, yeah, it must have been maybe where they're like waiting to actually admit them
Yeah, but I feel like that might be kind of
because
dangerous. Like if there's somebody who's really unstable, like.
no, if someone was actually unstable, they would be like in an orange room,
Okay, okay.
which is like basically a prison room.
We
Like
love
where you,
that.
I mean, I was put in one because
That sucks.
they didn't have space for me in the ER anymore. And they were waiting for me to be accepted into a psych ward. And they wouldn't accept me because I was a pumping mother. I was literally 2 days postpartum. I
Yeah.
was still bleeding and leaking from every bit of me. And I had to pump so that like I wouldn't get engorged or whatever,
Right.
like get mastitis and all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been told by multiple people that that is that I could technically sue them for being like biased or something like
Really
because they wouldn't accept me because I was a pumping mom.
interesting.
Yeah. And they wouldn't do it because like the cords and stuff are like unsafe or whatever. But I think the true annoyance is that like when I got in there, they had to like unlock it and bring it to me every single time that I needed to use it, and I had to use it every 4 hours.
Wow. Okay.
So it was like a lot, and I think that having a postpartum mom was too much for them to handle because normally you just kind of give them meds
Hmm.
and not have to worry about them much, but I had to have pads and the pump and like all of this stuff that I needed because I was postpartum. Um, but yeah, for me, it was like I was waiting in the ER to be admitted. And then because they ran out of room, they put me in the orange room, which is literally just like a steel bed and a steel door. And I could hear people like pounding on the doors, like
That's
down
terrifying.
like the aisle of the orange room, like pounding on the doors, like screaming that they were gonna kill the president or like something like that, like crazy. Like legit people that are like legitimately like having a true
Yeah.
mental health like crisis.
Yeah.
Um, and Nathan came and he was like really pissed off that they moved me there. And
Yeah.
he's like, she's just like a postpartum mom. She's not like, she doesn't deserve to be in there and so on and so forth. But they just didn't have room for me anywhere. Um, so then I eventually was able to get in the psych ward, but like it's essentially it's just like a bunch of rooms, um like doctors' rooms, like regular doctors' rooms,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like a bed and it has like a desk and a bathroom, a shower, toilet, and then there's like a center area, so like all the rooms are around, and then there's like a outside area with like tables and couches and stuff where everyone comes out to eat if they want to. I would eat in my room. I didn't really want to socialize with anyone. I was just trying to rest and get better and get back to my family.
Yeah.
So I so you could go out and like eat and stuff and then hang out, play games, and then you can also go to like meetings too. So like they would have like group
Okay.
meetings. And so yeah, but I'm not really sure what he's really talking about. I know that obviously the majority of the people that I think were in there were like, drug addicts slash like homeless
Mm-hmm.
people. Because I talked to like there were a few people that talked to me. But I just try to kind of like keep my head low and just kind of
Right.
focus on what I needed to do to get out as soon as I could, like get myself better. Because that was the whole point of me going in there was like,
Absolutely.
I know I need help and I need
It
medication
might be
because
the
at this
difference
point I
in
couldn't.
like voluntary versus involuntary. Like you went
Um,
looking for
so
help.
so I went looking for help, but mine was still involuntary,
Oh, was it?
technically. So okay, so the way that it works is either you decide to go in there
Mm-hmm.
by saying like, okay, I'll do it,
Mm-hmm.
or they force you and it's like a whole legal thing, is what they told me.
Okay.
Like that it would be like a legal situation where like I would be forced to do it rather than me just like admitting myself. It was weird. I'm not really sure how that works, but that's kind of
Okay.
what they said. So
Interesting.
I was like, okay, well, I'll just do it because obviously I wanted to get help, and that was the only way for me to get help
So
postpartum.
did you feel like you had to do it voluntarily because they told you they would do it involuntarily otherwise?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
yeah. Like it's like if you don't, like we're gonna force you to anyway, basically.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And so, I think the issue with what happened with me is like they didn't really ask me many questions about how I was feeling. They kind of just assumed that I was like postpartum like depression kind of thing. They didn't ask me any specific questions. So they ended up labeling it as psychosis just because they didn't really know what it was, but they never asked. And like if they would have asked, like I had textbook bipolar
Yeah.
symptoms. And so it was super weird. And like I didn't know that they were bipolar. I didn't know it was bipolar symptoms because I had no idea about the symptoms for bipolar.
Right.
So like we were completely blindsided by that. But yeah, so and I'm also going to be like working with one of my friends that we had on the podcast, Amelia, uh with like putting out my story to help other people be aware of like postpartum mood disorders and things like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I it's something that I take very seriously, like mental health and postpartum is like prenatal and postpartum especially.
Mm-hmm.
Women with their like hormonal changes throughout their lives. Um, to me, like it means so much to me to like put work into that and to help women get through those hormonal changes that men never have to like experience really.
Yeah.
And so I just when he's talking about these things, it's like, yeah, I can agree with you that it's kind of a nightmare to go to a psych ward and that we
Okay,
need help.
yes, but the
We
way that
need
you
help
talk
with
about it is
the,
so different. Like you have empathy and sympathy for the people that need to be there,
yeah,
and you recognize that it's a flaw in the American healthcare system and needs to be addressed. He is sitting here shitting on everybody else that was there
yeah.
and just not caring at all about other humans.
It
So,
honestly almost sounds like, like when they like keep you in the jail cell where like you're all together.
like a holding cell.
Yeah, like that's kind of what it
Yeah.
seems like.
Let's keep
Was
looking.
he actually in the psych ward or was he just in jail?
Well, I don't think it was
like
I don't think it was
well, because
jail.
the police took him in. The police
Well, yeah,
didn't
but the
take me
police
in.
can take people to mental
Yeah.
health institutions.
Chapter 5, of course, we have the demon-possessed situation here. Beginning in verse 1, they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwellings among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying. And by the way, this guy isn't crying like boo-hoo crying, he's screaming, right? So this guy who's demon-possessed and acting crazy, he is screaming day and night, okay, crying and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshiped him. So point number 1 this morning, crazy behavior amongst lunatics in the Bible is screaming.
You don't have to be you don't have to be screaming and stuff like I said about the Orange Room people to be crazy.
Right.
Or to be having mental health issues.
No.
Like, narcissism is real.
Clearly.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, trying to somehow make it seem like beating your kids and beating your wife is right. That's fucking
for
insane.
mass murder of different communities. That's totally
fucking
normal.
insane. I'm sorry. Like the fact that you have to somehow make
I
your
feel like
brain
he's
believe.
resorting to these extremes to like justify it for himself. He's like, oh, because this person in the Bible is crazy and or demon possessed, and these are the behaviors that they were exhibiting. Because I wasn't exhibiting those specific behaviors, I must be totally fine and normal. And people even call Jesus crazy, so I must be even more like Jesus because somebody called me crazy. This line of thinking is just stupid.
Yeah. Is that, I don't know if this is the right term, but is it the straw man theory?
What is the straw man theory?
You don't know what the straw man theory is?
No.
Okay. This is like, okay, so it's like distracting with something else completely random. It's like, you've never heard of that, the straw man argument?
Mm-mm.
So it's like, okay, so it says, if someone says they love the color blue and someone else argues that red is better, asserting that the first person obviously hates the color red, this would be a straw man argument.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
Like distorting, like you're like distorting what they're saying. Oh, I guess it's almost like gaslighting, I would assume.
It sounds a lot like gaslighting, yeah.
But he's very much being like, this is like, look at these people. Look how crazy they are. In comparison to me, they're psycho, right?
Yeah, it's very classic, like taking scripture out of context to justify your behavior. Yeah.
I mean, he also justifies like hitting.
Oh yeah,
like, beating
all of his unhinged and
stuff.
abusive behavior. Yeah.
Which apparently, I don't know if it's just specifically where they live. Like, spanking your kids is fine as long as there's no bruises that show up.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure his kids did have some, but you know.
I feel like I've seen pictures, but I would have to research more.
Like, it's illegal at that point. But I don't know if that's, because obviously state to state, I'm sure it's different.
Yeah, state laws.
And self-destructive behavior, right? That's what we see with the demoniac here in Mark chapter 5, screaming and self-destructive behavior. Now, before I go any further, I want to say this once again. Some of this that we see in real life is not necessarily demon possession. Some of it is drug-induced psychosis. And let me tell you something. If you take drugs, you are opening yourself up to the destruction of your mind. Okay? And you may think it's just innocent to just fool around with some drugs, maybe some quote-unquote soft drugs.
I mean, okay. It depends on the drug. I take drugs to preserve my mind. I take prescription drugs to make sure that I am okay. So I think that a blanket statement like that is really, really narrow-minded and not
I mean, all
accurate.
he's thinking about is like hard drugs, but apparently he just said soft drugs. So what, like marijuana apparently?
I'm guessing like marijuana, like magic mushrooms, stuff like that.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like marijuana just makes me sleepy.
Makes me sleepy and snacky.
I just get so sleepy.
That's all. It depends on the person. It also helps a lot with pain for me, which
it also depends on the type, I think, of marijuana too, because there's
depends
different
on the strain.
kinds.
It gives Theo like really bad anxiety. So
like paranoia.
Yeah.
That's pretty common.
So it depends on the type, it depends on the person, depends on a whole lot of things.
I think I only take it like I don't smoke or anything like that. But I've taken a couple gummies a few times on like the mom retreats I go to. When I'm away from the kids and stuff, like just doing my own thing. And I just take the sleepy kind. And I think it's because I'm afraid of it being like paranoia and stuff like that. Like I don't ever want to feel manic ever again. So kind of like very careful with what types of things I do try. I don't think I'd ever try shrooms because
I don't think so either.
My brain. Well, the thing is, it's like I work so hard already to like keep my brain healthy and keep it in the place it is right now. So like, and I know that mushrooms can sometimes alter like the actual like your brain physics or what, I don't even know, whatever.
Well, it makes you like think you see different things, I think, from what I've heard. I don't know. I don't like not being in control of everything.
Oh, same. Yeah.
So I don't think I ever could.
Yeah. So a lot of people say that when they're on like shrooms, they like can see like the trees breathing.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
I don't have any desire to see that. I'll be honest. That's
for me. Okay, for me, I love feeling one with like nature.
Sure.
And stuff. So like I kind of understand the aspect of that like kind of being beautiful in a sense, right? Because like I'll like when it's especially when it's a super windy day, I love just like being in the wind and seeing like the trees blow and the leaves and like nature moving around me. I really like that feeling. So I'm like, I feel like maybe I would enjoy a trip of like when that's happening or something, you know? But then but I think my fear, obviously.
But you can't control what kind of a trip you're gonna have.
Oh yeah, no, you could have a trip of like your eyes falling out of your head.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm good, man. I have no desire to do any of that kind of thing.
All that I've heard is that with any like harder drugs, because like obviously we grew up hella like sheltered, so we never really tried anything. Extreme.
How old were you? The first time that you tried marijuana?
I was. How old was I?
I was 17.
I was not. I was very old.
Very old.
I didn't drink until I was 25.
Oh my god.
I took a sip of like beer in Mexico once with like cousins because my uncle made it. But that's why I hate beer.
I don't like beer either.
But yeah, I didn't drink until 25. Like Nathan and I finally like decided we were gonna start drinking together. And then I got pregnant, so that was cool. And then I can't remember if Ari was like 1 or 2 or something.
Okay.
I smoked. Like vape.
Okay.
And I hated it.
I hate. Okay.
I hate
never
it.
Smoked a cigarette to this day. I've never smoked a cigarette.
So my
I've never vaped anything. I have smoked a joint before. But but never a cigarette, no tobacco. I've never vaped or anything like that. And I think that in the entirety of my life, I've smoked maybe like 6 times marijuana.
I vaped, and I remember I like took it in, and then they were like very specific about not letting it out of your nose. It all went out of my nose. All of it. And it was so painful. Like, painful that I'm like, never again. Yeah. I'm never, ever trying that ever again. But yeah, and I feel like it didn't really like do anything for me, smoking. Yeah. I don't know. And so Nathan was like super giggly and stuff, but I was just like nothing really happened. And then later, not until like 2 years ago, I tried gummies, which I was a little bit nervous about gummies because people say like to be really careful because like obviously you can't really control how much it's going to affect you. So like to start really, really small so that it doesn't like send you over into insanity.
Yes. I can't believe you're 25 before you like tried alcohol. I was 16 the first time I had alcohol.
Oh no,
but I was a rebel. I was, bad rebel child.
I was never, not ever. Like
almost perfect.
When we were little, we went to Mexico, and I remember my uncles and stuff and my cousins like kind of like peer pressuring us to try beer, and I tried it, and literally ever since then I like hate the flavor of beer. And like my sister says the same thing. And then I never did. And I remember it was interesting because like I never felt like I wanted to try it or anything. And I think it was because I did try the beer that I was like, it's disgusting. Like, why would I try it? Yeah. And obviously I never had the feeling of smoking or anything or doing drugs. I was like pretty scared of all of them because of especially everything that we were told growing up. But I never experimented with anything at all. And I remember hearing about like these girls in my class that they like ended up getting in trouble because they were out late like in their truck drinking beer.
Oh no.
And I was like, why do you want to do that? I just like didn't get it.
It's a rebel thing. I don't know.
I didn't understand why.
I don't like alcohol. Like I don't drink a lot. I'll drink socially every once in a while. I don't like the taste of alcohol. It's not enjoyable for me. I'd much rather have like lemonade or something. First drink I ever tried, I was 16, and it was vodka with pink lemonade. Still one of my go-to drinks if I'm actually drinking, like on the rare occasion.
Vodka's definitely one to start with.
I like the lighter, like I like clear liquor. More than like whiskey
it tastes
or bourbon
way
or
better.
something.
Yeah.
But
tequila?
I've never done a shot of anything straight.
Me neither.
Which I am perfectly fine with, and I have been told several times by husbands and other people who shall not be named that I need to do shots or I'm not living or something. I'm just like, I'm good, man. I'm really good. Like,
no, I'm terrified of doing a shot.
I'm also a lightweight. I won't drive after, like, I don't drink a lot of beer, but if I have one, I won't drive after one. Like I won't. No, I'm a lightweight.
I'm okay after one. I feel like because of all of my medications that I take or have taken. So I've like dabbled in prescription drugs.
Oh.
But not in the sense that they weren't given to me.
Okay.
they were prescribed to me. Sorry, that sounded way worse than it did.
It sounded a little crazy, Christy.
No, I've dabbled in my own prescription drugs given to me by my psychiatrist.
Okay.
And because of those, I feel like I'm kind of used to being a little bit sleepy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like especially like all anxiety medications make you sleepy. So anytime I've had to take those, it's like I still have to be functional, especially because I'm a mom. So when I drink one drink, I'm like, I'm perfectly fine to drive because I'm used to kind of being a little bit sleepy.
That's fair.
Or like pushing through it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
not really, it doesn't really affect me as much. So, yeah, but like, yeah, I've only like vaped once with marijuana and then tried gummies. Like I've only done gummies like twice. And nothing else. But yeah, we just like socially drink. We don't really drink. We don't have like alcohol in the house or anything. Every once in a while I'll get something to try if like
Yeah.
I feel like it, but I usually stick to like sweet stuff. So it's very
Same.
similar to like yours where it's like, well, like I don't love the flavors, so it's like why not just use the calories and stuff with just drinking juice? You know,
Exactly.
because like the alcohol that we drink is super sweet anyway because we
Yeah.
don't like the
I
flavor of
also
alcohol.
have fun. Like if other people are drinking, I can have fun without drinking. Like
Oh,
I
okay. Yeah.
can kind of like, relax a little and laugh and be silly and
Hmm.
stuff, and like I can still have fun with other people who are drinking if I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
So I don't really see any reason to. Like I'm not
You know
necessarily against it, but
the reason is karaoke.
oh my God. Okay, I've never done karaoke, but Theo's starting to plan like a game night or something where we're gonna do karaoke, and I'm just
The
like, yeah, I'm
reason to
I'm
drink is
drinking for
karaoke.
this. I am
Yes.
absolutely drinking for this. I can't sing worth shit.
Bro,
I can sing Amazing Grace, and
bro.
that's about it.
Okay. You go. I love karaoke nights. But I've been starting to go. I haven't gone in a while now, but we started going karaoke with like my mom friends and stuff. And I remember we like the first time we went, there were these younger kids that I don't know, they might have been Gen Z, but they kind of like took me in. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lot younger than the mom group friends
Okay.
that I have. And so it was funny. I was kind of like taken into like their group. And one of my friends tried to get me to take a vodka shot, and I was like, I really don't want to take it. So like I had the guy from the group drink it for me. It's like, drink this, please.
Smooth. Very
I was like, do you
smooth.
want this? And they're like, yeah. And so they drink it, and I'm like, cool. So I don't have to drink it. And then the second time I went with Michelle, actually,
Yeah.
she ended up getting us, I think they're called green tea shots. And
Mm.
those tasted really good. Like they didn't
Mm.
burn or anything like
Yummy.
that.
That sounds yummy.
I'm like too worried about it like burning on the way down. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm scared of, so I don't really want to try any, but yeah. Um and also it just like makes everyone sound better when you're drunk. And it's just like a lot more fun, I feel, because
Oh
you're not as
God.
scared. Like the
Yeah.
liquid courage part is like definitely worth
I
it when it comes
know.
to karaoke.
I told Theo, I'm just like, if I'm gonna sing in front of anybody that's not you, I need to be completely wasted.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna sound good. So everybody else
No,
needs
it's
to be
funny.
completely wasted too.
I always joke around like when we went to go to Micah's wedding, Nathan's brother,
Hmm.
uh it was in Mexico and Nathan was in the groomsmen like party
Right.
and they had to do a bunch of challenges of like drinking shots and stuff. So uh they got pretty drunk. And so it was funny. It was really funny because he got drunk enough that he like was actually out on the dance floor.
Oh, do you have
Yeah.
videos? Do you have videos?
I don't know if I have videos, but I have a really, really cute photo of him and Arya. And Arya was like a baby. So she's like in her little
Oh,
dress and he's in, you know, like
oh.
when you're like surrounded by people and you're in the center dancing. He
Mm-hmm.
was in the center dancing with Arya and it's it's so cute.
You're
I'm
gonna
like,
need to find that. We're gonna need to put it up here because
yeah,
oh my God, I
I'm
need to
like
see
he'll
that.
dance as long as he's drunk. So, you
That's
know.
so cute. Oh my
It works
gosh.
for some things, but yeah, like on the daily, like I'm not really into it. It just makes me sleepy and
Hmm.
like and sometimes it'll cause like headaches and stuff. So like
Yeah.
I'm not really a huge drinker
Yep.
or anything like that. Which proves that if you take a drink of alcohol or
you
drugs,
do not have to become an alcoholic.
Yes!
Contrary to what the IFB and clearly the NIFB preaches.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Not everyone does. Not everyone becomes
Nope.
addicted. But yeah. Okay, back to the video.
Experiment with psychedelics a little bit, maybe just smoke a little pot. But look, any of these things can trigger you and push you over the edge. If you're genetically predisposed, this stuff can send you into lifelong.
If you're genetically predisposed, so you're telling me the way that God made you, genetically whatever the fuck, like, are you talking about it triggering like mental health in you, or it triggering like addiction? Is kind of my question too.
I think he's making it sound like addiction kind of things,
Okay.
like lifelong psychosis.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So God made them that way, and God is allowing them to get addicted to drugs then.
Cool. Psychosis and make you crazy for the rest of your life. So I'm not saying that everyone who has mental illness is demon possessed. That isn't true.
Well, that's
there
good.
are people who have a chemical imbalance. There are people with a genetic problem. There are people who've taken drugs and fried their pain. Or even if you're not genetically predisposed, what happens when you just get a bad batch of drugs? Newsflash, the FDA, whatever you think about.
He knows a lot about drugs.
He sure does.
Bad batch.
About them, they're not checking the drugs to make sure it's safe. The doses are all over the place. The quality's all over the place. You have no idea where those drugs are coming from, and you can fry your brain in one shot or even die from taking drugs. Do not take drugs.
Okay, so he's okay. We just went from marijuana to prescriptions. Yeah, we just went from marijuana to prescription drugs. So he apparently sees no different. Like, there's no difference between marijuana, like psychedelics, and prescription drugs. Like, I'm sorry, but the doses are not all over the place. The doses vary person to person. So of course they're going to be different from person to person.
What I've learned with like looking into doing like nursing school and stuff like that, because I've thought about becoming a midwife or like mental health help, whatever. What I've gathered is that you have to be really good at math because of prescriptions. So basically, like, you cannot fuck that up. You can't fuck that shit up. So the fact that he's saying that is insane, because that's like a huge thing for you to be able to pass to become a nurse or whatever it is, because you have to be able to figure out the math for that person's weight and height and all the things that they need for that specific prescription for them, right? Like, the right dosage is very important. And it's crazy that he's just like, what are you saying? Like Tylenol, it's just like every single Tylenol bottle is like fully, every
I don't know, man.
Different.
Where does it end? Where does it end?
Oh my God.
Ugh.
That's bullshit. Like, black market type of shit, like under the carpet.
Yeah, of
drugs.
course. Well, and there's, of course there are like, there's been a lot of cases with like cocaine or heroin or like very harmful illegal substances, fentanyl that's laced with something like.
I mean, fentanyl alone is insanely dangerous.
Yeah. Like things being mixed with other things that are just really bad for you, for your body, for your mind. Like that's absolutely a thing. But there's a difference between that and something you get from your doctor. Like, and apparently he sees no difference in that. That's
saying that the medications you get from your doctor are not FDA approved? What?
Yes, they are. Yes,
that they don't check them?
Yes, they do.
What the hell are you talking about?
Oh. Let's keep listening.
Stay away from the drugs. So again, I'm not saying that all crazy people are demon possessed, because they're not. Are all deaf people demon possessed? Because in the Bible, we have people that are just deaf because they're deaf. We have people that are born blind, born deaf. But then there's also a guy who's deaf and dumb because he's demon possessed. And then when Jesus casts out the demon, then he can speak. Then he can hear. Okay. So we don't want to make the mistake of blaming everything on demons or something like that, because a lot of people just have a chemical imbalance. They need help, whatever. And so we don't want to paint with a broad brush, just start judging people without knowing the facts. Okay.
However,
I've personally known 2 people in my personal life who have lost their minds, gone totally crazy, only temporarily, just for a matter of a week or 2, when they had their amalgam fillings taken out, because their amalgam fillings were taken out wrongly, and they got heavy metal poisoning. And talking to them during that time was like talking to a complete loon, okay? And yet, it wasn't demonic, it was a chemical thing. So we want to make sure we...
Okay, so we love science, and we love that science can tell us these things now. But we didn't have these things back in the day. So you have no idea if those people were suffering of some sort of toxin back in the day, in the Bible days, because of our advancements in science that now we know is not demon possession or ghosts or whatever the fuck, like, because we can prove it now with science.
Yep.
And back in the day, they didn't have these things to be able to prove any of that. So we have no idea if these people were demon possessed or if they did have a chemical imbalance or whatever the hell. They didn't have pharmacies back then for this shit.
No, this man is so narrow-minded, and he literally just sees what's in front of him, which is really ironic for somebody who preaches,
It is super weird that it's weird that he's actually, like, being like, don't get me wrong, like, there are people that have, like, imbalances, and that's totally fine. Like, it's weird that he's actually, like, standing up for a little bit of mental health stuff.
Well, is he talking about physical chemical imbalances or mental chemical imbalances? Because there's a difference. Because he's talking about people
mental.
But he was talking about people who had heavy metal poisoning. That's a physical thing that causes, mental symptoms. It causes symptoms that are unexplained, that are not obviously physical, right? But it doesn't sound like he's talking about anxiety. It doesn't sound like he's talking about depression.
It sounds a little bit to me like he is, like, making it, I don't know, because obviously depression and anxiety come from a lack of serotonin or whatever, right? Like, that
it is a chemical imbalance.
Yeah. So that's a little bit interesting.
Don't rush to judgment with people. We don't always know, is it chemical or is it demonic? But what you're going to see in the Bible, though, is that being crazy and being demon-possessed are really the same thing. And I don't really think that the devil cares how he gets you there, whether he gets you there through a demon or he gets you there because you're stupid enough to put drugs in your body. The devil wants you to be self-destructive because the devil hates you. Amen. The devil doesn't love you. He hates you and he wants to hurt you and destroy you. Okay? So when I first got there, there was this one particular woman, one of the first people that I see when I walk in. Because, by the way...
Is it not self-destructive, like, to beat your children and beat your wife? When your wife beat your kids?
Uh-huh.
Is that not self-destructive for, like, your family dynamic in your life? Like, seems to me like your consequences are starting to, like, come around. And your children are starting to become old enough to fight back or to speak up. And you're going to have to face the consequences of your actions. And guess what? Your kids probably don't really want to talk to you or be around you because you made a horrible environment for them and you were hurtful and not loving. And it's like what the fuck?
And yet he still compares himself to Jesus.
Yeah. Like, to me, that's self-destructive.
It is.
Like, how am I supposed to, like, show my children Jesus's love by beating them? and making them
I never
so
understood
fearful
that
of me.
logic. I never understood that logic.
Yeah, by making them so fearful of me that by the time that they're able to leave and get a job, they want to fucking get out and not ever
Yeah.
talk to me ever again.
Yep.
That seems so healthy and so great for like your life. Like, what are you talking about? Like, a successful family is your kids wanting to be around, your kids being thankful
After they
that
have
you're,
to be around you.
yeah, like choosing to be around you and spending time with you even after the fact. Like, whatever.
Wait, this place is co-ed. Okay?
Oh my God, co-ed.
35 men,
vaginas and
women,
penises,
okay?
raw.
All mixed together in a co-ed deal. We're all in the same room, folks.
Oh God.
The horror.
And when I first walked in, she was acting so normal that I literally thought that she worked there. Okay, but then I'm thinking to myself,
so who's the crazy one
now?
now?
This green jumpsuit that because basically they had us in like these green medical scrubs that were like disposable clothes. They were literally like disposable green clothes, and she's wearing the green clothes. But she comes up to me and she's so reasonable and so helpful. I thought this has to be an employee. Okay, but then I'm like, is she like dressing like us to make us feel like she's one of us or something like that?
Bro, he sounds crazy.
Hey, a couple hours later, she just lost it, okay? This woman just completely loses it, screaming, crying, freaking out. And then she just starts doing this Halloween scream. Like, I don't even want to impersonate it because it's going to destroy my throat. Just imagine just the loudest, most insane, just nonstop for literally over 2 hours. And we're sitting there, like, I'm sitting there with this one guy that was normal.
So I feel like this is kind of similar to like when you freak out and have a tantrum in your house and kick and throw the chairs that you would
break
force
the bar
your kids.
stools and break the dishes.
Yeah.
Yelling and screaming at your wife and kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in the privacy of your
But you're
own
not
home.
crazy.
Can't be you.
No.
Normal. And we're like, this woman needs to go to Hollywood immediately and do the voiceover and sound because she's got a talent that just can't be taught.
God.
I mean, I don't think anybody can scream like this. This is the most scary, horrific, nightmare scream I've ever heard. And she's just screaming nonstop and slamming herself into the wall, and they're having to hold her down and everything like that for hours, okay? And like I said, when I got there, she was so normal, I literally thought she was an employee.
Maybe after she met him, she got demon possessed.
Stop.
Also, why isn't he over there like, Jesus loves you. Jesus loves you.
Right? Is that not your job, sir? As God's chosen, God's anointed? Is
But
that
it's like
not your job?
The power of God compels you. Yeah, why isn't he fucking being God's instrument? Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
If you fucking cared
You
at
think
all.
Jesus can't use you in a mental institution?
Seriously. And I went over there and I prayed with her, and then she was better.
Oh my God.
You know, later this woman showed up in the middle of the night.
Okay. Not
and would just
Brother Donnelly
run as
literally talking about how he was at a fair, like, and this woman who he claims was like supernatural of some sort or like a witch or something came up and started like spouting stuff to him, and he just sat there and like recited scripture until she went away. He literally told that story like in a sermon that I listened to recently.
Oh really?
Yeah, I mean
God,
a couple months ago recently, but yeah. No, he was literally talking about that happening to him, and I think his kid Nathan was with him. And yeah, this woman came up to him and started like talking about her atheism and her witchy stuff or whatever. And he just started quoting scripture at her until she left and called it the power of God, even though he just bored the shit out of her. So she left.
Yeah, I would say like if someone started spouting scriptures at me, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
I'd be like, this is weird. Okay, bye.
Yeah, like.
Not the power of God.
I would think you were crazy.
Yeah. But okay, that's my point. Like, you know, to his credit, Pastor Donnelly did exactly what he felt he felt like he was supposed to do as a man of God, as an ordained preacher. So, I mean, even though it's stupid, that's what he was supposed to do, and that's what he did. So, Mr. Anderson, sir, why are you not doing what God has apparently called you to do?
Yeah, that's true. He didn't have the balls to stand
Guess not.
To a demon.
Hard as she could into the wall and just bounce off of it. And she was hurting herself so much that they literally had to restrain her and hold her down and things like that. Folks, this kind of screaming and self-destructive behavior is what we see when people go crazy. Whether they're taking drugs and they go crazy because of drugs, they start destroying themselves. They're screaming.
Self-destructive behavior, like aka what he's trying to say is self-harm. Self-harm is way different than being self-destructive. Self-destructive can be all sorts of things. Like beating your family.
Like, well, it doesn't have to be physical either.
Yeah, and it can just be like financially overspending. That's
self-destructive behavior.
Yeah, eating a bunch of candy when like you probably shouldn't be. Like there's a lot of things that are self-destructive behaviors, but he's making it seem like self-harm and self-destruction are like the same exact thing, and they're not.
No.
And I would say he's very self-destructive in the manner that he treats his family.
Yeah.
And he's literally destroyed his family.
Yep.
Because of it.
Wildly, or whether they are demon possessed. Okay, look if you would at Matthew chapter 17. I think you're there in Mark 5. Go back a few pages to Matthew 17. I'll start reading while you get there. Matthew 17 verse 15. Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed. For oft times he falleth into the fire.
This is me with my toddler.
He is lunatic.
This is me with my toddler. Lord, please. He's a lunatic.
And oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. And the thing I want to point out here is that this demoniac child, what's he doing? He's being self-destructive. He's throwing himself in the water. He's throwing himself in the fire. Dad's afraid he's going to drown or get burned or hurt. And let me tell you something. The devil wants you to engage in...
And he's just stomping in a puddle.
Self-destructive behavior.
Throwing himself in the water.
Even if he can't get you to do it through drugs or being demon-possessed. Obviously, no Christian can be demon-possessed because greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. There's no biblical example of a saved Christian being demon-possessed, okay?
Yeah,
but, of course, you know, unsaved people, they are liable to this, right? This can happen. But the Bible says in Ephesians 5:29, for no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourisheth it and cherisheth it, even as the Lord the church. You see, the natural, normal human instinct is for us to be preserving ourselves. No normal person hates their own flesh, right? They want to take care of their flesh. The
way that you take care of your children?
I'm sorry. Okay, I understand what he's trying to get across, right? Like, human instinct is to survive, right? Like, and I understand that. But again, he's being so narrow-minded. He's not taking into consideration any trauma, any form of trauma in childhood or otherwise that can cause...
doesn't believe it.
Well, but yeah, but it can cause your brain chemistry to shift and to change. I was diagnosed with depression after 5 years of molestation. I was diagnosed with anxiety after 5 years of molestation. I was diagnosed with CPTSD after all of this shit happened. I was not like this before.
Yeah.
So that's not my instinct. I don't have that instinct. My instinct is to hurt myself. My
that makes me like so sad for like his kids, and like just when I hear Miriam talking about how the mom literally looks at her and is like sick to her stomach looking at her own daughter. To me, like, how could a mother ever feel that way? And how do you like imagining how you would feel if your parent hated you so deeply when like you draw like your self, like what is it, your sense of self from your parents, right?
Yep.
Like your core values, like the core things that you believe about yourself, you pull that from your parents. So if your parents are saying all these horrific things to you constantly, no matter what other people say, those are like your natural feelings about yourself, like what your parents have told you. And like the fact that they've like just everything he's saying is bullshit. It's such hypocrisy. Saying that like they're being destructive because what? They're mentally ill. They're being destructive. Yeah, they need fucking medication. They need help. But you know what? Who else needs help? You. Because you're hurting your kids. You're beating your kids. And you are saying that you want to preserve, like the godly way is to preserve and to protect and to nourish. Are you nourishing your kids by hitting them with cables? Are you nourishing your kids by feeding them shitty ass food that they want to throw up? Like, where is God's love? Where is the nourishment that you're providing for your own self? You selfish fucking bastard.
Yep.
I can't. It pisses me off because as a mother, I could never look at my kids with sickness. I could never. When I look at them, they're the closest thing that I've ever felt to a heaven or to an angel. Okay?
Yeah.
They are the epitome of like purity and innocence. And like they see everything in such a beautiful way that it makes me want to see things in those ways, right? Like I forget negativity and all the like horrible things in the world, and I want to make it better and more beautiful because I want it to match the like who they are. I want the world to be better for them because they're innocent and perfect and beautiful. And it's like it breaks my heart to think that people like could hurt their kids and like think that it's okay and drive themselves to the point that they're like they rage at their kids every single time they see them. Like I get being like mad with rage once in a while of just being like overwhelmed and exhausted and all the things, but like to work yourself up to like basically being in that rage. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like when you're in like pure rage all the time, like to me that's so unhealthy. And like the mom legitimately sounds like she's like in rage all the time with the kids. And that's so scary, and I feel so bad for them. And I hope that they're able to like get help and actually get like CPS involved and everything. But apparently he's like just making it seem like nothing's happening, like the kids are okay, and that them getting help from CPS is like an attack on their family. Like, it's so hypocritical for him to be like, yeah, I need to take care of myself and nourish myself, but also doesn't give a shit about his kids.
Yeah.
They want to nourish it. They want to take care of it, eat good food, exercise, do whatever they can. But the devil wants you to engage in self-destructive behavior, mutilating yourself in various ways, cutting yourself, harming yourself, getting on the freeway and going 130 miles an hour.
This is going to be very quick. I haven't cut myself since I left the church.
And doing all these wild, crazy, self-destructive things.
Also, self-harming is like way different than harming others, because he's okay with harming other people.
And a lot of teenagers and young people get this mentality where they're just taking all these wild risks and doing all these things. Folks, that is the influence of the devil, okay? God wants you to be safe. Safety is of the Lord. God wants you to take care of yourself. Your body's the temple of the Holy Ghost. You nourish and you cherish your own flesh.
I'm sorry. We're not going to finish this video today. We can't.
Seriously.
I am so much safer than I ever was in the church. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's just not true. I was not safe there. I was not ever safe there.
Mm-hmm.
Every single room in that building was unsafe. There was nowhere that was safe. There was nowhere I could get away from Daniel. Nowhere. Even when he was gone, even when he wasn't there for a year, the memories and the influences were still there. The verbiage, the preaching was still there. The really unhealthy counseling was still there. Like, that's not of the devil. That was coming from whatever fucking God they believed in.
Yeah.
That's not safety. I'm sorry.
Him saying that, like, teens taking risks and whatever and so on. I believe Miriam is like 17.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if that's kind of like directed to her, and it's like she's a million times safer.
Yeah.
Being away from you fucking people. Like,
yep.
That's what normal people do. But the devil, he wants you to be self-destructive. And that's what we see with people that are crazy. Number two, how about violence toward other people?
I think we're at
that's rich.
It's getting violence
towards
others.
other people.
Here we go.
Okay, you don't have to turn there, but Matthew 8:28 says, when he was come to the other side into the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils coming out of the tombs. And how are these demoniacs described? Exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. Nobody's able to go anywhere near these guys because they're so fierce, they're going to get hurt because these guys are going to get violent with them. Okay?
Were they throwing
Here's
bar
another
stools?
Example in Acts 19. Before you read that,
were they hitting people
let me just
with
tell you that
cords?
when I was in the nut house, there were people in there getting violent. Like I said, we're in this little room 50 feet by 60 feet with 50.
I also would like to say, there's another sermon recently that it's called like simping husbands and like, I don't know, disrespectful wives or something like that.
Ooh, that sounds juicy.
I don't know. I feel like he's like the biggest simp for his wife, and coward. Because for the most part, it seems like he doesn't do like the beating of the kids. It sounds like it's mostly the mother.
Okay.
And so he just stands by. I mean, he beats his wife. But like the actual children, it sounds like it's more the mom that hurts them.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like he's like a little weak ass bitch, like just standing by while his kids are getting hurt. And then what takes it out on the wife, like, which she's weaker probably than him, which like we love a man that beats a woman. It's very manly.
50 of us inmates in there, or whatever you want to call us, patients or whatever. And I mean, people are getting in fistfights, threatening each other, physically attacking one another at times. And this was the weird part. No matter what anyone did, no one was ever punished for anything, and no one was ever removed. So you'd have two guys just attack each other violently, going at it violently, and the staff runs over, pulls them apart, and you're expecting like, okay, they're going to put these people somewhere else or segregate them, or there's going to be some kind of a punishment. No, it's just like, okay, you go sit over there and you go sit over there.
He's like, what, you're not going to beat them for doing something bad?
That's not how we do it in my house.
And we're just back to business as usual. And it's just happening over and over again. You're just surrounded by violent, insane people in this place. Look at Acts chapter 19, verse 13. What I'm showing you today is that people who are crazy and or demon possessed, not always the same thing, but sometimes the same thing. You know, number one, they're screaming and destroying themselves, but number two, they're violent toward other people. Look what the Bible says in Acts 19:13. Then certain of the vagabond Jews, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits the name of the Lord Jesus, saying, we adjure you by Jesus whom Paul preacheth. And there were 7 sons of one Sceva, a Jew, and chief of the priests, which did so. And the evil spirit answered and said, Jesus I know, and Paul I know, but who are you? And the man in whom the evil spirit was leaped on them and overcame them and prevailed against them, so that they fled out of that house naked and wounded. So this guy who is demon-possessed, he attacks and beats up 7 dudes. The 7 sons of Sceva, they all get their butts kicked, and they all run out of the house, fleeing wounded and naked because he's beating them and ripping their clothes off them and attacking them. This is what people do when they're crazy or on drugs or demoniac. And we've probably all, over the years, seen videos of somebody who's on drugs, and they just start beating up a bunch of cops or something, and they basically, it almost seems like they have a superhuman strength, right?
So what kind of drugs are you on that you're like beating your wife?
Yeah.
And what kind of drugs is your wife on that she's beating your kids?
I feel like this is such a, like this whole sermon is like, yeah, it's just, here's all the reasons why I'm not actually crazy. It's just an argument against the fact that he didn't deserve this. Because he's not exhibiting any of these behaviors. And it's really, yeah, I don't know another word for it besides selfish and narrow-minded. Because just because you're not like, screaming and...
He's also putting out like the idea that like everything that the kids are saying isn't true.
Right.
That it's just like lies and of the devil. So I'm like wondering if he's like accusing like Miriam of being demon possessed because she's telling her truth, like
maybe.
And he's like really pushing out the idea, especially to his congregation, because
it also sounds like
him.
It also sounds like he's believing that a lot of these people that he was in this place with were demon possessed, because he's basically saying that unless it's a chemical
or
thing by drugs, then they're like, that's the only other logical conclusion is possession.
Yeah.
So that's a little extra.
I just can't get over like his hypocrisy, and I mean it's extremely common when it comes to preachers apparently, and like
right, because they're just so amped up on whatever the drug, all the adrenaline kicks in, because you hear about people in a dangerous situation where the adrenaline kicks in and they can lift a car or do something like that. So these people, because they're taking drugs and messing with their body chemistry, sometimes they can tap into these adrenaline reserves and really do some crazy things and have a lot of strength and so forth. And that's what we see here. Turn, if you would, to 1 Samuel chapter 22 in the Old Testament. 1 Samuel 22, so number 1, screaming and violence toward themselves. Okay. Number 2, violence toward others. But number 3, paranoia. Paranoia. Now here's the dangerous thing about paranoia is that paranoia can ultimately lead to hurting people in the name of self-defense, right? Self-defense, even though nothing's happening to you, you're not in any danger. But if you think you're in danger, you might harm someone to defend yourself. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? And we have an example of that in the Bible with King Saul. And if you remember, King Saul was crazy. Okay, because if you remember, really that evil spirit came and was tormenting him, and he became a raving...
Okay, so he's literally paranoid. I mean, you look at his Facebook post. He is saying that people are out to get him. He's saying that everything is a conspiracy. Well, I mean,
like classic Christian persecution.
Well, yeah, but that's paranoia.
Yeah. Or is he paranoid that people are going to find out that he's a fucking horrific...
Exactly. Exactly.
Lunatic to the point where he's throwing the javelin at his own son. He's throwing the javelin at David. He's ranting and saying all these things, stripping all his clothes off and doing all kinds of wild things. He lost it. Okay? And here we see some paranoia with King Saul that actually ends up leading to violence. Look at 1 Samuel 22:16. The king said, "Thou shalt surely die, Ahimelech, thou and all thy father's house." And the king said unto the footmen that stood about him, we're in 1 Samuel 22:17, "Turn and slay the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled, and did not show it to me. But the servants of the king would not put forth their hand to fall upon the priests of the Lord." And so what we see here is that King Saul becomes paranoid. He thinks that everybody is teamed up with David. Everybody's out to get him. And so he ends up showing up at Ahimelech's place. And Ahimelech is not rebelling against Saul at all. He was not doing anything to harm Saul whatsoever. When David showed up to Ahimelech, he thought that Saul was sending David on an errand because David is one of Saul's most important generals. He's one of his greatest warriors. And so Ahimelech didn't think anything of helping David. He wasn't trying to do anything rebellious or wrong, but Saul just becomes so paranoid. All these people, they're all with David. They're all trying to overthrow me. Kill them all. Because he's paranoid, because he's losing it. And he ends up
kill them
harming
all.
people.
Where have I heard that before?
As a result. Now, I have to demonstrate some of these things. I'm going to need a volunteer to come up and be me. And I'm going to be the crazy people. Okay? So I got to just show you some of the things that I experienced while I was in there. Okay.
This man is so extra.
This guy walks up to me, and first he just starts asking me normal questions, but he got about this far from my face. Okay? So I'm standing there. The guy walks up to me, and basically says, like, "What's your name?" Just answer me like with your answers. Like, what's your name?
Corbin.
Where are you from?
Michigan.
What do you do?
Air conditioning.
Why do you want to shoot me? Why are you trying to kill me?
I'm not.
Why do you? So who's trying to kill me?
I don't know.
Someone here wants to kill me. Who is it? Tell me who it is.
I have
what?
no idea.
All right, you can go ahead and say. I'm going to need you again, though. I hope you know what you're getting into. So have a seat, because it's going to get a lot weirder. Right? I mean, that's paranoid, right?
This is really
And somebody said, "Oh, that guy's a
unkind.
paranoid schizophrenic," or whatever, But you see how that could be dangerous when somebody has this mentality that, hey, you're trying to shoot me. You want to kill me. You're here to kill me. People are trying to, somebody in this room wants to kill me. I don't know who it is, right? You can see how that would be dangerous. But number 4, the fourth point, because we said point number 1, screaming and self-destructive behavior. Number 2, violence toward others. Okay, number 3, paranoia. And then number 4 is just going to be kind of a generic label that I'm going to call weird behavior that isn't necessarily destructive. Just crazy stuff, just weird stuff, weird behavior that isn't necessarily destructive. If you would go to 1 Samuel 21 now.
I mean, so far he's like all
so
of
you're
these
just going
notes.
Pretty close to where you just were.
Like,
weird behavior that isn't necessarily destructive.
All of these
1
things.
Samuel 21:12. David laid up these words in his heart and was sore afraid of Achish, the king of Gath, and he changed his behavior before them and feigned himself mad in their hands. So David is scared because he thinks that the Philistines might put him to death. Because David is sort of the arch enemy of the Philistines because of the fact that he's the one who killed Goliath. And he's the one who has killed many Philistines in his career. Now that he's on the run from his own people,
His career.
he flees to the Philistines, and
murdering
he's
people
thinking that they're
that
going to
God tells him
now.
to kill.
Because everybody, he's not welcome in Israel. He's afraid he's not going to be welcome in the land of the Philistines. And so he feigns himself to be mad. He feigns himself to be crazy.
Is
he
that
decides
what you
that this is a
did?
good way to get out of a bind is to pretend
Just
to
a
be
joke?
nuts.
Okay,
And so in verse 13, he changed his behavior
Pause.
before them and feigned himself mad in their hands.
So these are all points that he's making about behavior of people who are crazy and or demon possessed, right?
Mm-hmm.
David was not demon possessed. David was not crazy. He's pretending to be. So this is not a valid point.
Yeah.
Continue. Just wanted to point that out.
And scrabbled on the doors of the gate. Now, the word Scrabble, it's a wonderful board game, of course, but it's also a verb that has to do with scratching or clawing. Okay, this is called scrabbling, and you can kind of see how it's related to the word scratch, right? And so it says that he scrabbled on the doors of the gate and let his spittle fall down upon his beard. So he's basically just like drooling on himself and clawing at the door and clawing at the gate and just acting like a weirdo. And then they basically look at him and say, hey, this guy's clearly crazy. You know, he's not a threat. Don't worry about it. He basically gave the insanity plea. Okay, he pled insanity.
So he's not a threat. So you're saying that somebody who's crazy, which by the way, David was not, is not a threat?
Crazy people are violent and self-destructive and all the things, and they can hurt people because of adrenaline. And then now everyone's like, oh, don't worry, he's not gonna hurt you. He's crazy.
This does not prove, like,
it doesn't make sense. Like, he just preached something completely different.
You need to stop using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Like, it's where I'm at right now.
Also, shut the fuck up with using the insanity plea.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you for even mentioning that, because guess what? Some people do go insane, and some people actually have mental health issues to the point where they end up hurting other people due to their mental health, and that's why we have the insanity plea, and it's there for a reason. And Idaho does not allow that. So
oh, really?
I would
fuck Idaho.
Be fucked if I went crazy and did some bad shit.
But let me tell you something. Don't ever plead insanity. If you only take one thing away from the sermon today, do not plead insanity, because the nut house is worse than jail. The people that were there were literally saying, I should have stayed in prison. This is the most effed up place I've ever seen. Okay. It's bad.
Did you just say effed up?
So let me just give you some other stories about some of the things that I saw in there. So there's this woman in there.
That's weird.
And
I feel like you wouldn't be allowed to say effed up.
Remember how I said we have these green outfits that are like a disposable scrubs? It's like a pair of pants and a t-shirt, disposable, whatever. Well, somehow this woman was modifying her outfit, okay? So she was like she somehow had gotten some extra garments, and somehow she made a mini skirt, okay? And I don't know how she did this. I think she might have used the shirt and turned it into, but to be honest, I never could quite figure out how she pulled this off. But she somehow made a mini skirt, and then she like tore off the bottom of her shirt, tied it in a little knot. Then she took a pair of pants and basically did up this really wild headpiece, right? And then she's just kind of just walking around the place, just doing like a fashion show of this weird garb. And then every 60 minutes, she would change her hat and make a different hat. And it was all these really wild hats that she would make and so forth. But this woman would go from just like cheerfully walking around, you know, doing all this stuff and whatever. And then she would just go into these rants that would just go on for hours, literally hours. And I mean, it doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m.
Sermons come to mind, rants that would literally just go on for hours. And honestly, it sounds like that woman was just coping. Like, not that she, you know, didn't need to be there or anything, but I mean, people do that in uncomfortable situations or even in prison. Like, they make makeup out of different things. They can modify their clothing if they can get away with it, things like that. Like, people do that.
I just feel like it's really distasteful to like have an entire sermon to basically make fun of people that either have a drug abuse, like a drug addiction, or a mental health issue, or whatever the fuck. Like, he's literally making complete fun of these people, and obviously has no fucking compassion or empathy, period.
Yeah.
And it makes me sick. Like, when I was in the psych ward, I remember like definitely trying to cope and trying to pass the time, because all I could think about was getting out and getting back to my family and my baby. I would pass the time taking hot showers for like literal hours because the hot water was like endless. So that was one thing I would do, is take a really, really long. I would color quite a bit. I would write a lot of stuff. And I detached myself from my family because it was the only way for me to cope. Like, I would just be sobbing the entire time if I didn't.
Yeah.
And like when my family would come to visit, which they were only allowed to visit twice a day, they would come in the morning or at night.
Mm-hmm.
And they would bring my daughter, obviously, and a lot of the times I wouldn't even want to hold her because it's like, why get attached to her and why when I'm just not going to be allowed to be with her anymore.
Right.
So yeah, and some people are forced to be in the psych ward and do need help and may not understand why this is happening to them
Mm-hmm.
or what's even going on. Like, I didn't even know what the fuck was happening to me. I just wanted to feel normal again. And it just, I can't. Like, where's the humanity in, like, religion? Like,
No, it doesn't exist.
why can't you have empathy or love towards anyone in your life other
Nope.
than yourself?
Nope. It doesn't exist. There's no space for it.
Just, I really hate him just making fun of people.
4 in the morning, just any time of day. She just go into just these insane rants, and I can't really even impersonate it because like I can't even talk that fast because these crazy people, they talk just like a machine gun, just nonstop for hours and hours, and then
What he's talking about is probably a fucking manic episode, so shut the fuck.
they just like pass out. But then as soon as they pass out, like someone else takes a shift. So there's no rest day or night. Because as soon as one person conks out and she's just like asleep, then some other woman is doing the exact same, acting the same way. So
Manic episodes take it out of you. Quite
Yeah, they're
literally.
exhausting.
It is not fun to be 100% alert and awake constantly, your mind going a million miles an like the way that it happened to me is like I would write down a bunch of stuff. Like I had lists and lists and lists of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just like I would just write like my brain. It was like I was trying to get everything out of my brain so that I could fucking sleep and like just shut it off. But my brain would just not shut off. So like him just like he's just can you not make fun of people that are having manic episodes and having actual like it makes me really frustrated. Like you don't know anything. You don't know what the fuck you're talking. Like
no, he doesn't.
Stupid, selfish motherfucker.
So I don't know if it's just like this same demon just keeps switching bodies.
It's just called bipolar.
Oh my God.
Or else if it's just all these people have the same drug, they all took the same drug or they have the same problem or something. But I'm telling you, they would just go until they wore themselves out and then they would just pass out. But this woman just, I mean, I can't even impersonate it, but it was something like, you know, she'd just be just going on and on, just like, you know, these people don't understand my family, you know, this is my family, and what do they know about my family? And they're talking about family? Who know, you know, just on and on, just crazy talk. But then in her more pleasant moments, this is what she would do to me, okay? Because here's the thing, you know, I'm in this place. There's no going to bed at night. It's 72 hours. The lights are on 24/7, and it's just chairs that recline to like 45 degrees.
I don't know where the fuck this man
there's no
was.
Going to bed.
Because like
I'd be interested to find out.
I really don't understand this psych ward situation. It seems like it must have been like where they're waiting to get put into a psych ward.
I would assume so.
Because like you have your own room, you can turn the lights off when it's bedtime. You like go to your separate rooms and stuff. Like if you were legitimately.
Well, it sounds like
he
was in this like holding place or whatever.
Yeah,
for the entire 24 hours that he was there.
So he wasn't actually in the psych ward, so this motherfucker can't even, like, handle the holding place.
Yep. It's just the lights are on, continual screaming, 45-degree angle chair. So I keep getting up and I'm walking around just to, like, stretch my legs, because it's like you can't just sit in a chair for 24 hours. And so I'm getting up and I'm kind of just walking around like a caged beast here. I'm just walking around like a lion in the cage or something, And I couldn't walk very far because this place is small. And
acting like he wasn't enraged himself for being there, but okay, whatever.
Right?
And it's jammed with chairs and people to where there's just kind of this little path that you can do, right? Okay, so come on up here, Corbin. Okay, so you're gonna be me. This is gonna be your little path. You're just walking a circle around the pulpit just to kind of simulate, the kind of little path that I had. Okay, and basically this woman's just coming up to me and just going like this, just like.
Okay. So?
I'm just trying to mind my own business, okay? Keep walking. Then she's just coming up here. Hey, you just need to take this ring. I want you to put on this ring. You're going to wear this ring. Just wear this ring for a little while, and then you're going to put this ring on somebody else, and then they're going to put on the next person. I want to just give a ring to everybody, but, it's just I love my jewelry box at home, so I have a couple rings, but I just want you to put on this ring and wear this, It's just like, what the heck? Go ahead and have a seat. 10 minutes later, I see this guy that had to have been 75 years old if he was one day old. With like part of his face was missing. Okay, I don't know what happened to this guy. But look, my friend, do not do drugs. Amen. Do not drink alcohol.
Why
do
are
not
we
go down this road.
Assuming that's
because
of
that's
drugs
how
or alcohol?
most of these people ended up in
because
this place.
that's
I'm not
all
saying they all got there that
fucking...
way. Most of them got there through a life of sin. Drinking, drugs, whatever.
Because it all comes down to being a sinner and the rhetoric of, like, be afraid of alcohol, be afraid of drugs, because this is the life. Like, there's only God or being a fucking drug addict and alcoholic.
Yeah.
Like, those are the only paths. You can't be an atheist and be a good person and love your kids and not fucking beat them. And he's horrific.
This man is probably the most... I have so many words that I want to say right now. He's selfish. He's incredibly arrogant. He's narcissistic. He has no compassion, no empathy, no understanding of anything beyond his own tiny little mind. It's honestly, it's really insulting for him to sit here behind a pulpit, preaching to other people and encouraging other people to believe like this. I'm sorry, but, like, this is not how Christians are supposed to behave. Making fun of people with illnesses and the hypocrisy and the irony in every single one of the points that he's making in this sermon. This is not how Christians are supposed to behave. I'm insulted as a Christian. I'm incredibly insulted by this rhetoric. It's disgusting.
I'm just over him making light of other people's horrific situations and, like, making it comedy and, like,
it's not funny.
And then just blaming it all, obviously, on a sinful lifestyle, aka drugs and alcohol. Like, no, bitch.
There are so many people that are born that way that don't have a choice. There are people that become unstable due to trauma that they have no control over. There are 1,000 reasons why somebody could be in that position. If you haven't experienced that, if you aren't in that space emotionally, you have no right. Nobody has any right to make fun of people for illnesses, whether it's mental or physical, like that. Nobody has any right to do that. That's disgusting, especially from behind a pulpit.
Yeah, you're a shitty human if like you can't have any empathy or compassion towards others that are hurting, obviously.
Yeah.
In their mind is sick.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to call it that, but yes, their mind is sick, whether it's fucking drugs or not. It doesn't fucking matter. They're sick, and you have no right to judge them and no right to fucking make fun of them. Like, you don't know what's going on in their life.
God does not call us to this. As Christians, God does not call us to make fun of other people, to put them down when they need help. God does not call us to insult other people. God calls us to help as Christians. God calls us to be good Samaritans. This is not the behavior that is supposed to be exhibited by somebody who claims to follow Christ to be a Christian. This is absolutely disgusting behavior, and it's incredibly harmful.
Yeah, I hope that the people that were there are able to get the help that they need, and like that's all that matters, is that they're able to get the help that they need and feel better, and hopefully they have family and support around them. But it just makes me sick. I mean, I've been there. I've been in a really dark place, and I never drink alcohol. I never did drugs before this. I never did anything to deserve having anxiety, and depression and bipolar disorder during my pregnancies. I mean, people can blame it on me not believing in anymore, but I didn't until after the fact. So I was still technically a Christian up until this point. Um, I think it made me angry towards God because I had done everything the way that He said to do it, and I tried my best to do everything by the Bible and being a good person, doing all the things that that you're supposed to do. I didn't have an ounce of alcohol. I didn't have an ounce of drugs. None. And I still ended up in a place that was really scary and having mental health issues. And you can't just fucking blame that on alcohol and drugs. Like, yeah, sure, use it as your little scary tale to scare your kids and everybody in your church to never try alcohol or drugs. But it's not true. And you can't just like spew lies from the pulpit. Like, I mean, they just spew whatever they want to make themselves look better and to fit their story or whatever. Like, God, this guy is insane. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a very heavy topic. If you are experiencing any type of mental health issues or anything, I hope that you're able to get the help that you need, and hopefully we're able to put the suicide hotline on here. But please subscribe and please like and all the things, comment.
All the buttons.
And continue the conversation surrounding mental.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Share your story.
If you have been affected by religious trauma or abuse, we want to hear your story.
Even if you're not ready to share publicly, we would be happy to listen and support you on your journey, free of judgment or pressure.
Please email us at cultconfessionskjv@gmail.com to get started.
We believe you.